Hello, everyone. I am here with a special guest, Sally Graves. She is on a compassion van tour, and we will be discussing life in a van and living in a van and veganism and what her mission is with her compassion van tour. So, introduce yourself, Sally. Who are you, and what are you doing?
Hello, everyone. My name is Sally Graves, and yes, I am a woman with a van and a plan. I am traveling the country seeking stories of compassion for the earth, animals, and people. And my main goal is to highlight and celebrate people who are putting compassion into action in order to uh, encourage and inspire others to do the same.
Awesome.
So.
So, how long have you been traveling on this journey so far, and what made you get into this goal of seeking compassion?
Well, I officially started out in the van in mid-April. So I've been on the road for a little over 7.5 months, although I've taken a couple little breaks in during that time to work. But uh, everyone asks me what started this and where did I get this idea, and I have to be honest and tell people. I tell people all the time, it wasn't me. It really, really wasn't me. It was spirit.
Mhm.
It was absolutely a spirit download, a message that told me to go do this because I'm like, and I'm still sometimes to this day, I'm like, this is crazy. What am I doing? But no, having that knowledge that there's something bigger and greater than myself that's guiding me and helping me along the way is what keeps me at it. And it was certainly divinely guided from the very, very moment of it, the inspiration of the idea to getting the van, and every step along the way. There's so many things that have happened that I never could have designed myself. Um, and Yeah, so it's all about spirit. But I did have a few. I was asking for a few particular things, so I knew I needed more nature in my life,
Mhm.
and that was a big thing. I had recently become homeless and sort of was jumping around between staying with friends, so I did need a place to live. And I had been asking for quite some time to be directed to do something that was bigger and greater than myself. Really, there was something more of a calling and more of a purpose, and this is what came to me.
Awesome, and that's absolutely great. Now, I actually met you a few months back, and I was very interested with your story and what you were seeking out on, especially you living in a van as well. And I don't know anyone else who does that. So I found that to be very interesting. And I wanted to bring you on here so you could share what you're doing and hopefully grow this mission that you have. So, how has your life been since April living full time in a van essentially?
Oh my goodness! It's been amazing. It's been the most incredible 7 months of my life, I think, and I've never felt more free. Freedom is ultimately, and I was afraid about. I understand when people say, "What the heck?" or "How the hell can you do that?" or "Don't you miss showers, bathrooms?" Like the little everyday normal things of life that we take for granted. And yes, of course, I miss those things, but on the flip side, what I get in return, the sense of freedom is absolutely incredible. And I love traveling. I love having my little home with me wherever I go. So even I've stayed with friends. I go from state to state to state and city to city, and I visit people all along the way. And I've stayed with dear close friends, like college friends, and they had a air conditioned spare bedroom that I could stay in, and I still chose to sleep in my van in the driveway because it's my space. So I go to sleep in my space. I wake up in my space, and and it has all the comforts of my comforts that I
Hmm.
need of home. I never have to pack, and I never have to unpack, but I'm still traveling. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And and if I ever forget anything, I just go out to the parking lot and get it.
Now, you also
um,
have a tour of your van on your YouTube channel. I checked that out
I
and I saw where
thank
everything was, and it is quite
thank
amazing how you
you.
fit everything you need to in that van.
Yes. Wait, so should I spin the camera around and show people right now so they can get a little bit of a
Sure,
sense?
sure, absolutely.
So this is I'm in the front and I'm sitting in the passenger seat that's been turned around. So I now have like sort of more of a living room. So there's the outside and then there's in the back.
Nice.
So this is like my closet, and then back here in the back, if I were to show you, is where my sink and fridge are back there.
Awesome.
So,
Now, what state are you currently in?
oh, I'm currently in sunny Florida.
Ah, nice. Okay.
So which I'm really pleased with myself about. That was my general. I didn't have a plan, so to speak. Everyone asked me, well, what's your plan? Where are you going? And I'm like, I don't have a plan. And that is also the beauty. And one of the things that I'm trying to share with people is that you can live a life that you design, that you create, and it doesn't have to always all be 100% planned out, because half the things that have that I've the people that I've interviewed in events that I've attended would never have happened if I'd had an actual plan.
Hmm.
Um, so the best things that have happened have been absolutely unplanned. Um,
Absolutely. Now, we got a question here. Shadow
Yay!
Foxy asks, how do you feel about seeing family that lives in a van? I guess if like a family that lives in a van, I'm not quite sure how to.
I'm
If
not
I,
sure how what when I'm visiting family and I live in a van.
I guess so. Maybe, yeah.
Well, for one, I've always been the crazy one in the in the family. So this is just one more thing that Sally's doing that's different from everyone else.
Mm.
Um, but I've always sort of been a pioneer in that regard, not just in my family, but like my small town where I'm from. Uh, and I've always sort of lived on the outskirts. I'm always pushing the envelope, so to speak, and questioning the way things are now, the way, the status quo. And so, yeah, so sometimes I show up in my van, but once people see the van, I think we have this, we all have and I did as well before I moved into a van. I wasn't sure how I was going to operate in such a small space, and I can get a little bit claustrophobic. So I was like, how am I going to be claustrophobic? That's crazy. But it's actually the most amazing, cozy, comfortable feeling I've ever had. But when I show up and people get to see it for themselves, and they see how cozy and comfortable it is, and that I really have all these amenities, they're like, oh, I get it now. It's not as weird now. It's not as crazy of an idea. And then they can understand that why I would do something like this. And maybe you could consider it a sacrifice. I don't, but sacrificing the daily pleasantries in order to do some bigger and greater things that I want to do.
Now, how do you manage to sustain yourself living in there, such as how you get enough money for food and water, and how do you financially support yourself in this way?
By my chinny. No, I. What's that saying? No, I. So thus far, I've done entirely on savings.
Okay.
I had this big idea that, and mind you, savings is not a lot, because when I lived in New York City, I was making literally $15 an hour, at a raw vegan health food store, and $15 an hour living in New York City is not a lot to sustain yourself, let alone save anything. But that and odd jobs. And in August, I stopped almost for an entire month and worked at my old job in New York City. So that provided sort of the next, the next few the the money for the next few legs.
Okay.
And then more recently, I've done odd jobs. I've done everything from babysitting to working on an Amazon event, flyering for their hiring event as a temp, and I even got to work an Aziz Ansari show in Asheville, which was super cool. So
Ah,
it's really awesome that just by picking up odd jobs and doing things like that, I've washed dogs. So since Asheville, I've been doing other work along the way in Asheville and Greenville, South Carolina, and in Atlanta to make money along the way. So,
awesome.
but the next phase, I want to do more, get back more to my health coaching, which is what I used to do in New York City, but in person. And so now I'm trying to move that to a strictly online business.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, that would
Yes,
definitely supply you with another form of income as well, because
indeed.
when you're doing what you're doing here, as you said, you have to go off of savings, so it's really not, from a financial standpoint, you're not really making anything at this point doing what you're doing. And ultimately,
No.
you would love to do what you're doing, because I know you have several support channels and a Patreon page, and want to get
Mm-hmm.
people to help support you to continue this mission. But even that,
Yes.
it's very hard. It's very hard to do that. It really is.
I'm working on that. I thought that I was going to do a big GoFundMe campaign, and I set it all up, and then I just didn't. But eventually, I'm going to do I'm going to do a fundraising campaign. I'm just going to do it on a smaller scale. I recently was inspired by a woman who did a fundraiser in November asking for $1 from Patreon followers, and I thought I could do that. I can ask for $1. That is just like a little bit more my lane. It's a little bit more of my comfort zone, and actually kind of thrills me to see like how many people could I get to vote for compassion and vote for a more compassionate world by helping me do this work for just $1 a month.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's great, and I hope that hopefully that kicks up and you're able to do what you do, because I'm all about people doing what they love for a living, and for the
Yes.
most part, that's so
Yes.
hard for many people.
So true. So very, very true. And I would, my long-term goal is to somehow turn this into a full-time job. Like if I could do this all the time, or everyone asks me how long you're going to do it for. And, um, I say a year, that's my goal, but and now I'm saying it in the live interview, so we're not going to be able to take this back. But the truth is, I already know in my head that there's no way that I'm going to be able to accomplish everything that I want to in just 1 year. So that's definitely going to be extended. And eventually, I'd love to be able to do this on a larger level, like, with someone else editing my videos and, maybe some sponsorships so that I can continue to go around and find stories of compassion and share them, and then get involved in more activities of around compassion as well.
Yes, and I think in time that will come, but it is a slow build-up process.
It is. It is.
We got a few more questions here.
Yay.
Shadow Foxy asks, "What's your favorite feature of your van?"
Oh, that's a great question, Shadow Foxy. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I have so many. I would say because even though I'm vegan, doesn't make me any less of a foodie. I'm totally a foodie, and I love my refrigerator. I mean, hello, I have a refrigerator in my van, so I can have lots of fresh fruits and veggies. And I even have a bottle of champagne. One of my sisters gave to me. It's a Veuve Clicquot, and the whole thing. So just so you know how deep it is, the whole thing stands straight up. So I love my fridge, but I also love my solar power in general, and the fact that I have lights. So the fact that I can just turn on lights and have light in my van is amazing. But and then I think the third thing that also makes me different from from other van lifers. A lot of van lifers, like, you know, they clear out the van and then they rebuild it using, you know, floor, ceiling, walls, all boarded up. And mine is different. Mine is not like that. As you can see, I still have the original interior. It's a 94. And so I just love this turquoise, like, I don't know, it's not velvet, but it's almost like a faux velvet. You know, it's this turquoise interior, and so I love waking up in the morning, and instead of looking at wood ceiling and feeling like I'm in a box, I'm like in a like little princess, you know, caravan of sorts, and there's just turquoise everywhere, and turquoise has been one of my power colors for many years. So
Awesome.
it's just perfect. Again, that was spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? Because when I got it, I only looked for vans one day, one evening. And a lot of them had leather interiors or leather seats. And I really didn't want to sit in a leather seat and drive. So I have turquoise, cushy, awesome seats instead.
Awesome. Now, we got a question from Angie here. Do you have a savings set aside for unexpected breakdowns?
No, Angie, I don't. And so this is what's gonna, you know, people are gonna think I'm really ridiculous or unsafe or crazy, but I don't. I don't have savings because I never have. And that was one of the things, or the whole reasons why I'm doing this, is because I'd always wanted to do something like this, right? Every time I heard about someone like traveling across country or doing a big project for the earth or for the animals, I always had this call, like, I want to do something like that as well. But I never had the money. I never had the resources. And I always kept telling myself, well, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. And finally, I decided to take some of my spiritual beliefs to heart and take a leap of faith. And people ask me, like, where are you going? And what route are you taking? And I always say I'm going MLK way, because one of my favorite quotes by Martin Luther King is sometimes you have to have the faith. Sometimes you have to take a step and have faith that the stair will appear. And so that's what I'm doing. And I know there is a chance that I am going to I could end up on the side of the road in a small town somewhere, broken down, and not have money and not be able to fix it. And at that point, I'll probably get to know those people in that town really, really well, right? And I've always known that there's going to be a point when I didn't have anything or I'm going to have trouble, and I'll resolve it at that time. And that there are no mistakes, that there are no failures, that everything that I absolutely need will be provided. And if that means that I have to, you know, get a job or you know, wash some dogs or walk some dogs or babysit or do things along the way in order to make my way, then that's what I'm going to do. I'll just do that, and it'll be part of the journey. So what I've decided to do is to stop worrying about the potential things that could happen. And it's one of the things I really want to share with people, because so many of the decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis are based in fear.
Yes.
And I'm pushing myself to make every single decision from the perspective of love. And so, you know, I love the question, though, because I get it often. You'd be surprised how many times I get that question. I had one particular woman is say, well, aren't you afraid, you know, driving around as a woman alone? And I said, are you afraid of driving around, you know, as a woman alone driving around? Right? Because people don't think it when they're in their safe bubble, when they're in their zone, when they're just, you know, going to work, coming home, picking up the kids, you know, doing their basic little things of the day. They don't really think about, oh, I could get in harm's way. But so I don't either. I'm just doing the same thing. I'm just traveling the country, but it's my day to day. And I feel like I'm even more alert to possible things happening than you would necessarily in your day to day. So, I've lived in Seattle, Brooklyn, Atlanta, New York City. So I've lived all these places, and I didn't live my life in fear. So I'm not going to start now.
Excellent. That actually answered the question that was going to come up next. So you pretty much answered that one too.
Oh, yay!
You just flowed right into it.
Thank you.
So moving on to the next topic here. On your journey, what sort of compassion have you been seeking and spreading, and how are you helping other people by finding this compassion and sharing it?
So, so compassion, by definition, means wanting to relieve the suffering of another, right? So that's what makes it different from, say, just plain old empathy. Empathy is like, oh, I see you're hurting, and I feel bad that you're hurting, and I empathize with you. But compassion is actually even though it's a noun, it's more like a verb, right?
Mm-hmm.
Compassion is about seeking to relieve the actual suffering of another being. And so for me, I'm seeking the relief of suffering for the earth, for animals, and for people. I'm not excluding anyone, and I've got great stories from all over. So I particularly like to I'm a litter picker. Everywhere I go, one of the things I do in parks, streams, rivers, beaches, what have you, and I always carry a plastic bag, and I always pick up litter wherever I go. So that's sort of like where I combine my life and compassion van, because I get to have my nature time, but then I'm also, doing good at the same time. So I love meeting up with organizations who are doing that on a much greater level, right?
Yes,
So
okay.
they're United by Blue in Philadelphia. They organize huge community litter pickups around waterways, and so I seek those out. I also have a huge affinity for anyone who's trying to feed people, whether it's the homeless or whether it's just poor people. Or my favorite is when people are rescuing food and reducing the amount of food waste in this country,
Yes.
and then providing the surplus of food to other organizations. I recently had a just mind-blowing, amazing experience with Bounty and Soul in Asheville, North Carolina, and you can go to my channel and watch that video. But they rescue over 3,500 pounds. No, that's not even a week. Like, they do like 3 markets, so they probably rescue 4,000 to 5,000 pounds of food a week.
Wow.
And distribute it to the community.
And that's all wasted food?
It would absolutely be all wasted. It would
Oh my
go
gosh.
into a landfill of some sort. Yes, not some of their food that they get is donated by local farms and local organic farms. And part of that is their surplus too. Like farms, organic farms have surplus as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then some of it is just benevolent. They've decided to contribute to the program, but the community, the energy that I experienced there was just. I was crying literally as I'm videoing and interviewing, and I realized this is what I want to be doing. This is exactly what I want to show people. This is exactly what I want to share with people, that there are organizations and there are people doing this, and you can do it too. In your, on a small scale, on a large scale, but you can do it too in your community.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just a tremendous amount of food waste, and we don't really think about the amount of food that we waste at home. I mean, so many people, I'm always very conscious of the amount of food that I waste. I mean, it's very minimal, because for the most part, I eat everything that I buy.
Yay.
And unless I really do not like something and I've already prepared it, there's no one else who's going to eat it, that's like the only time. But that is pretty rare, because I'm usually pretty open to trying different things and eating a whole bunch of different things. So
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you see it all the time. People just let things go to waste. People let things
Mm-hmm.
go past the expiration date. They throw it away. You have full
Mm-hmm.
packages of things, and it is truly sad because there's other people who could benefit from that.
Yeah, we really need to start putting pressure on restaurants and grocery stores in
Oh,
particular,
yes, yes.
to to make this food more available, because there are some grocery chains that lock their doors and refuse to participate and refuse to give to give food, and it is amazing. And I know that you focus on your channel about health and natural health, so you clearly know how important having fresh access to fresh healthy fruits and vegetables
Mm-hmm.
is. And so many people don't have that access, and particularly if you're going to a food bank or other place that's feeding people, it's almost always dry goods or canned goods. Maybe some bread or things like that, but it's still not fresh fruits and vegetables. And that's what that makes these markets so incredible. There was another one in Baltimore that I visited, the Baltimore Free Farm, and they did several locations in food deserts communities. And but when you do that, when you're providing access to healthy fruits and vegetables, you're truly healing people. You're
Mm-hmm.
truly allowing them the ability to help heal themselves. And if they can heal themselves, then they're going to have more energy to do other things. And illness is
Absolutely.
not a good thing.
And that's one of the biggest problems that I see with a lot of these types of things because it's people who don't really have much money. They're not able to afford quality food, so they have to resort to these really bad foods that end up making their health worse and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And it is truly saddening that people cannot that the price of quality foods seems to be so much higher, like buying organic versus non-organic. I mean, you don't necessarily have to buy organic of everything, but certain
Right.
things would be much better to purchase organic, but the price is usually much higher than that of conventional foods. And
Absolutely.
I've talked about this many, many times about, certain pesticides such as glyphosate being in conventional
Mm.
crops, whereas they're really not in organic. And there was a huge study that came out showing, about all the oats and grains, conventional having very high amounts of glyphosate for kids' cereal. And then you have all the food
Yeah.
colorings in
It's
the kids'
crazy.
cereal. So
Right.
you
Right.
have
And
all that
and
stuff, and it's really bad
yeah.
for our health.
Exactly. You have all those chemicals, and that this is what kids are eating, and then they're going to school and they're not able to focus and
Hmm.
concentrate and learn, and you wonder why, and it's because they don't necessarily have access to a healthy breakfast. But adults are just the same, right? And I always think that people, and I guess I know because I've been there myself. I've sort of hovered along the border of poverty line for the last like 7 years, ever since I took myself out of the corporate world. And I was an executive assistant, personal assistant, estate manager for many, many years. And then decided I wanted to help people in a different way. But when people are already, poverty itself is a huge stressor, right? Poverty itself can just put you into a huge depression and make anyone sad. And then on top of that, if you add unhealthy food, heavy fats and fried, and like you said, the cereals laden with chemicals,
Yeah.
and then you're going to be even more sad and even more depressed. I'm sure it is I know it's something you've talked about before, but what we eat is so tied in with how we feel. And I think that's one of the reasons why I thrive, and that's one of the things I'd like to share with people is that when you have your health, when you have a connection to spirit, and you don't need a lot, you don't need many other things. Like I don't have the desire to shop. I like grocery shopping. That's like my favorite thing. But I don't have a desire for more things. In fact, I am constantly trying to get rid of things.
Yes.
And I get things and I'm like, no, I don't have too many things. I need to get rid of stuff all the time. And I used to love dress up and having a huge closet and so many clothes, but I've recently adopted more of a minimalistic view of clothing, and I've just been never happier about it. It's just so freeing in so many ways. So
Absolutely. That's just amazing.
less is more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, you are also a vegan as well. So how does that tie into this seeking compassion, and how do you help animals, and how do you allow people to become more aware of what's going on with the animal agriculture system?
Well, so yes, I am definitely very vegan, and I have my little attention. This is a vegan household sign right in my van. It says, "Please respect and refrain from soliciting or entering the premises with any animal products," because I very much consider the van my home. When I left, everyone said, "Well, where are you going to eat? How are you going to eat?" And I'm like, I'm going to go to the grocery store like everyone else does. And so that's what I do. I go to the grocery store. But the exciting part about traveling and being vegan, and for me, I became vegetarian 27 years ago, and vegan-ish like 12 to 14 years ago. So it's been a long time. And back then, I never would have guessed in a million years that today, veganism would be as popular
Mm-hmm.
as it is. And it's so exciting for me. It's so exciting. I've always felt I'm a little bit ahead of my time in that regard. And so now it's like I get to see all those years of telling people, no, thank you, I don't eat meat. All those years of, trying to inform people. It's actually happening now. So, I continue to share that and spread the message. And I really like to focus on how delicious vegan food can be, whether it's recently I was in Atlanta and got to go to Slutty Vegan, which is a food truck that is blowing up. And I tell you, it was the most amazing thing. Her marketing is brilliant, but there are 1 to 2 to 3 hour lines at this food
Oh
truck
my gosh.
on the daily. And I tell you, if you'd be hard pressed to find more than 2 or 3 vegans in the line.
Wow.
And that's so amazing, because there's this just explosion of people showing other people how delicious vegan food can be, and breaking the myths. So I try to do that. I've done that a little bit with my decor. So I have animals stenciled. Um, let's see, can you see it?
There we go.
So
Yep.
there's a goat. Oh, and up here I have a pig. Oh, where is it?
I
Can you
see
see the
it.
pig?
Yep.
There's a pig. I have a goat, a pig, a cow, a chicken, or a rooster. So that's that's my little reminder of like what I am, why I'm doing this. But I've also visited, I always forget, 13, 14. I'm at 14 farm animal sanctuaries. I try to go to one in at least every state that I visit, and then share those videos to just show people. So I grew up in the country. I grew up around animals across the road from a farm. But as I've lived in major cities throughout most of my life, I know that most people have never pet a goat
Ah.
or a cow, right? Or seen a sheep, and felt its wool, and really looked at a sheep and felt its wool and think, now how does that wool get off that sheep and onto into my sweater,
Yeah, yes.
so I really think that by showing people and visiting farm animal sanctuaries, that I can show people the humanity, the sentient beings that animals truly are.
Mm-hmm.
And I plaster the back of my van with, vegan messages and bumper stickers from all these different farm sanctuaries as well. Yeah, again, I'm just trying to get people to make more compassionate choices. That's
Awesome.
all. And sometimes we just have to see things in a different way that we've never seen it before. So I'm hoping I can shed some light in that area.
Absolutely. And I think so many people are unaware because it's one of those things that if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. You don't really think about
Yeah.
how something ends up where it is. I mean, this is, for all types of food as well, even vegetables. Like, well, how did that fruit and vegetable get to where it needs to be? There could be a lot of other issues involved with that, but specifically with animals, it's people don't really put two and two together that you see an animal walking around and then you don't put that together with this same animal is on my dinner plate and I'm eating it. Well, how did it get from that to that? And that's what a lot of people don't really put those two together. And I think if they really knew what happened and saw what happened, I think there would be a lot more people who would be much more willing to accept the idea of what is truly going on and perhaps even make a change to be able to not only be healthier, but also to show more compassion towards other living creatures that have every right to live as we do here.
Exactly. And I like to, and because I have been on my veggie journey for so long, I love my vegans, fellow vegans who are in their 20s and they're new and they're just radical and they're like, okay, you just no baby steps, just become vegan and do everything vegan. And I get that, and that's wonderful. And I think for the younger generation, they're much more capable of that. But for people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and over, it's a different story, and a lot of people don't change like that. But I like to take it from the perspective of let's just make a more compassionate choice.
Yes.
And that starts with the next thing that you purchase. So whether that's a t-shirt, a toothbrush, or a taco, right? Like, can I make a more compassionate choice? Can I make a choice that's less harming to the environment, that is less harming to other people? Like, who's making this product, this food? And, can I make a purchase that is less harming to animals as well? And when you take it like that, when you take it, it's not about, oh, I have to be vegan or I have to go vegan 100%. And a lot of my clients will say, well, what about, my grandmother's rice? I love my grandmother's rice and she always makes it on this particular holiday and then she puts meat in it. And can I never have that again? And I think I'm a little bit different from a lot of vegans because I will never tell someone like, no, you can't have your grandmother's rice. Instead, I just say, let's not focus on the one or two little exceptions that you might encounter throughout your life.
Yeah.
Let's focus on what you can do. And, so you can save a chicken's life tonight by not having chicken for dinner, right?
Absolutely.
You can buy a bamboo toothbrush tomorrow that, won't float in the ocean for eternity. Maybe you can choose organic cotton or a local t-shirt the next time you buy a t-shirt. So those little things, and empowering people to realize that they can make a difference and that small decisions, really add up. We all doing more compassionate acts, then we all get to live in a more compassionate world.
Absolutely. And then I'm very much the same way because you can't force anyone to do something. So I've certainly encountered those types of vegans as well, commenting on my videos back when I was just a vegetarian, and even prior to that when they were commenting. I'm just like, when I hear stuff that's that crazy that they say you have to do this or this will happen and whatever, it deterred me. Actually, it made me want to go the opposite way. And for me, it was a very long process to get to where I am today, because it took probably about 7 years to change from eating a traditional diet and just eating pretty much anything to my diet now of being a vegan. So it took about 7 years to be able to do that. Now, that's probably slower than most people, but I took it at the pace that was right for me, and I got to where I am, and at this point, I am much happier with myself, and I feel as though I'm much...
you still have a whole life ahead of you.
Yes.
So we put so much pressure on ourselves to change or be, and you have to do what's right for you.
Yes, absolutely. We got some questions here now.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so Angie asks, why is organic more costly than non?
Primarily because of government subsidies, and that the government subsidizes farmers. Um, Less so for produce, more so for dairy and meat.
Hmm.
Was where primary amount of subsidies go, but they do subsidize farmers who grow various vegetables, and they're not subsidizing organic farms. That's usually on a much smaller scale, and it can be slightly more costly. However, I always say that the true cost to your health and to your mind, your soul, your mindset, is really small. It's fractional. Like, you might pay 10 cents, 20 cents more for bananas, for instance. And I eat non-organic bananas sometimes, but just for an example, usually the price is 20 cents difference, 30 cents difference. And, I always say, like, if you were going to a club, would you not go to that club because they were they were charging 30 cents more than the club next door that was clearly not cool, like like a little raunchy and dirty on the floor? Like, no, you would pay 30 cents more. So when you put things in perspective, that little bit that you might pay more for organic is totally worth it.
Hmm.
Plus, here's a tip. I always go to the EWG, it's environmentalworkinggroup.org, and they have two amazing lists. The Clean 15 and their Dirty Dozen.
I was
So the
just about to
Dirty
mention
Dozen,
that. Yeah.
yeah. The Dirty Dozen are the 12 things that you probably should avoid, like apples and strawberries, that you should buy organic because they have the most pesticides. And on the flip side of that, the Clean 15, which I love to shop out of the Clean 15, are things like cabbage, avocado, asparagus, that are clean and are pretty safe to eat, not organic. So that's where you kind of make up the difference. You don't have to be 100%. And I always say you don't have to be 100% anything
Yeah.
in this lifetime.
Now, also from Angie, and is there a difference in taste quality?
Yes, Angie. Now that is a great question, because that is a question that most people do not ask. And I wish they would ask more often, because there's a huge, huge difference in taste. And if you don't believe me, then go do a trial yourself. Take an organic orange and a non-organic orange, an organic watermelon, non-organic watermelon, a lemon, and you will clearly see the difference. Tomatoes. One, like, I can't, a conventional tomato tastes like sawdust, and it has hardly any juice in it, whereas an organic tomato will be nice and plump and juicy, and the juices are going to run all out. They're almost always way more appetizing when it's organic food.
Now, how would you also relate that to non-GMO and then GMO crops, like the certain amounts of crops there? Do you know of any type of taste difference between those? Because I've not heard anything about that.
That might be a little bit harder to detect with the taste buds, like zucchini or corn, for instance. You're not necessarily going to taste the difference, no. But ironically, there have been studies, or they've shown where people have just like laid out corn and things for squirrels and mice, and ironically they don't eat the GMO versions.
Yeah.
So they can tell, but I think that their palates are a lot more discerning, or about chemicals and things, where we are not. I mean, we eat so many chemicals every day that you can't tell if one has chemical and one doesn't. But I think if something, for me, I just don't trust any company that created DDT and then decided to mess with my food. So you created this toxic and Agent Orange, DDT. You created this toxic chemical designed to kill people. And then you decided, oh, no, that's not working for us, so we're going to start working with food. No, that's like asking Martha Stewart to build you a car. Like, she is very, very talented, but would you ever have her build you a car? no, it'd probably be made out of like cotton balls and popsicle sticks. So no, it
Yeah.
wouldn't work. But
And that's another misconception that some people have here with organic and conventional crops. Like I know when I first started purchasing
hmm
organic, I was thinking, oh, organic doesn't have any pesticides, but that's not true. Organic does use pesticides; it just doesn't use the conventional ones. And some of the
right.
organic ones may be pretty bad, but for the most part, you're not going to have the synthetic pesticides that
Right.
conventional crops use.
Exactly. And so we are also under the delusion that our government protects us somehow about what people can put on food and can't put on food. But that's really not true. And in fact, this country in the US, they use way more toxic chemicals than anywhere else in the world. And in Europe, I just saw a great thing the other day that said in Europe, a chemical is guilty until proven innocent. And
Ah,
in this country, chemicals are
innocent.
innocent until proven guilty,
Yep.
meaning they're considered harmless until you prove that they're harmful.
Hmm.
And a lot of times that's really difficult to prove. And I really feel that a lot of, this is sort of going off of my own little rant, but I personally feel that a lot of illnesses and diseases that we are facing today in record numbers is due to the amount of chemicals and pesticides that is in our food
Hmm.
and just fake stuff,
Yes.
and over years, yeah, it might be okay if you only live to be 35, but if you expect to be live to 85, no way, and you're going to have some problems because of that.
Yes, absolutely. And we have it's not really a question, but it is something to bring up here, and it's something that I have heard as well regarding the person says organic is not vegan, and from some of the information that I remember hearing not that long ago was some organic crops will use like a fish bone meal or chicken bone meal as a fertilizer to grow the
Right.
crops, as opposed to the conventional synthetic fertilizer. So, what are your
Yes.
thoughts on that?
Well, my thought is that you have to start where you are,
Hmm.
and if you're, if you only have a Publix or a Kroger available to you, then you're gonna have to shop at Publix and Kroger and what's available to you. If you can, I would highly encourage people to support more farmers markets, to be
Hmm.
able to shake the farmer's hand, ask them what kind of fertilizer they're using and what sort of chemicals they use, because often small farmers, they don't have the money. They're not using a lot of chemicals and pesticides. They're growing organic methods. They're just not certified
Okay.
organic. But if you really, really wanted to be a staunch vegan and the only, veganic produce, then you have two options. You can support farmers who are growing veganic, or you can grow your own food.
Yep.
So,
And for many people, growing your
and
own
for
is
me,
a lot of
yeah,
work.
that is my like that's my next, like, I can't wait to see. And it's interesting because the older I get, the more I go back to how I was raised. We had a huge garden and grew a lot of our own vegetables when I was younger. um, but I hope, I hope to envision a world where we we don't have these huge farms, and we do have more of a knowledge of where our food is coming from and how it's getting to our plate, even the healthy fruits and vegetables.
Yep. Okay. So to
But thank you for that question.
yeah, I think that was a good thing to mention, especially since I mean the person who commented they have veganic in their head their heading title, their name. So
Oh,
yeah,
awesome. Yeah,
so they
they're
must have
on
been
it.
aware of all this as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so to wrap things up here, let's just talk a little bit about where have you traveled so far, and where will you be traveling in the future, and where may people might see you. Some people who are watching this may see you at some point.
I know. I hope so. I would love to meet up with people along the way, because that is truly the people that I meet along the way is the whole, like, the whole reason for me to do this journey. I love it. I love meeting so many awesome people. But so the first I left I left Maine, which is my home state. So I moved from New York City to Maine, and then I left there in mid-April. And I traveled all throughout New England, Cleveland, down through Philly and Baltimore. I skipped over DC because of the hurricane, and then sort of waited out the hurricane and was in Richmond and Virginia Beach during Hurricane Florence. And then I went to the North Carolinas, Jacksonville, where I was helping out with some cleanup after the hurricane. And then spent some time with a friend on the coast, and then saw an uncle in like Fayetteville, near Fayetteville, and then to Asheville, and then to Atlanta. So I kind of, you know, people always ask me about the driving, and I'm like, I really don't drive that much, an hour or two, but I just kind of hopped from city to city to city along the way.
Yeah.
And now I'm here in Florida, Central Florida, where my sister and my mom and my grandmother are. And so I plan to stay here for the holiday season, and maybe January, we'll see. I have to make some money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have to make some money, and for the next part of my course. But the next part, I plan to travel to the West Coast, following the South Coast.
Oh, okay.
So following on the South. But that I'm really, really excited for, because those are all the states and cities that I've never been to.
Oh, nice.
I've never been to Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, Nevada. Well, I've been to Vegas, but that doesn't really count. But New Mexico, all those places, Southern California, I've never been. So if you're in any of those major cities along the way, then you will likely see me. And I'm thinking about changing up my tour a little bit and doing or being a little bit more, like I said, I don't plan very well, but I'm going to try to plan a little bit so that people know approximately what cities I'll be in and when going forward, so that I could do more things of like meet and greets. I've done a few on the way, but it does take a little planning to do that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be great. And as I mentioned earlier, I met you at one of the events, and that's when I found very interested with your story here, and that's when I was like, okay, you gotta share it here on YouTube. So yeah,
I'm so glad I had this chance. It's been awesome.
Absolutely. So what are your future plans past this tour? Like after you get to a certain point with your tour, where do you see yourself going from there?
Well, so my first short-term, long-term goal would be to continue the Compassion Van journey on a different scale, and continue to share other people's stories and all the amazing things that people are doing. In the guise of either having my own show, like having a Facebook Watch show, and doing it something on a greater level where I'm not editing my videos, because I'm not that good. I'm not that good at it, and it's not necessarily where I want my focus to be. I don't want to become an amazing videographer. I want to share the stories, much like a talk show host like Oprah or Ellen. That's what I want to do, and do it in a way that I'm able to live comfortably, and also to organize my own events, like feeding the homeless, or doing pickups and that kind of thing, or I would travel and do my own events under the Compassion Van tour. So that would be like year 2, and then people keep asking me, when am I going to do a documentary or write a book? And I know there's a book in there somewhere. I just don't know where, but it's something that I've always wanted to do. And also to travel and be a motivational speaker, and speak to people about all these topics that and all the things that I've learned along the way.
That is absolutely amazing there. I wish you much success with accomplishing those goals. They're amazing goals to have.
Thank
So if
you.
anyone has any other questions, please ask them
Yay.
now. And Sally, do you have any final words or advice for anyone who may be
You know
watching
what?
this?
Well, I think I want to thank everyone, all your viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching, whether it's now live or on the replay. And please jump over and catch me at Compassion Van across all social media. I'd love to see you there. Shout out, tell me that you know Autumn and you watch your show, and we're gonna be fast friends. So, but and I do have something to say. What was it?
That happens. That happens.
Oh, but I wanted to give them. I wanted to give your juicers. I mean, I don't know exactly who your audience is per se, but I thought I would give them a couple answers to some juicy questions.
Okay.
That no one has dared yet ask, but I know they're thinking it because I get these questions all the time. So, where do I shower? I primarily shower at friends or family, and a large part of my travel, I've known people everywhere I go, and even in chances, there was the one time when I was in Richmond, Virginia, I fell into a pond. I was disgusting and dirty, and I was like, I really need a shower. And I didn't know anyone, but I thought, well, who do I know? So I went on Facebook. I found someone that I was familiar with. We had mutual friends on Facebook. He was also a vegan activist, but he happened to be in New York. So he texted his roommate, and she allowed me to come over and take a shower. That was awesome. So, but for the most part, I haven't gone, I think, more than 4 days. But although in the summertime, I did use lakes and rivers and streams, and since it's gotten colder, that's more of a challenge. But I've always, nature. I'm bathing in nature and cold water is like the most amazing thing. It's really, really good for my brain. Bathroom. I have to find a bathroom. Like, it's like one of my things I gotta do every day. Like, figure out where I'm gonna poop. But I do have a pee jar. It's like a purple mason jar, so you can't see it, and I use that, and I have no qualms with doing that. I do have a foldable potty chair, it's like a seat, like I guess it's like used for camping or whatever, with you can put a bucket underneath it and plastic bag. So I have that for emergencies. I also have an emergency shower. I've just never used it. But that's something like I plug into the 12 volts and then I put it in a bucket of water, and I can do that. And I do have a sink. So I have water. I have running water. I can wash my dishes. I can wash my hands. Last time I filled it up, I filled it out of a not a hot spring, a spring water in outside of Asheville, and so I can actually use that as drinking water as well. So, and I have a fridge. I mentioned that, right? I have a fridge, and I have lights, and I can charge because of the solar panels. I can charge my iPad and my phone. It's been amazing because in New York City it was constantly, you're like the second you step out of your house, you're like, crap, I gotta, charge my phone. And you're always trying to figure out where you're gonna charge your phone. Now my phone is charged all the time. Mm-hmm. It's amazing because I'm like traveling with my home, and it's always charging.
Yep.
So, and my bed is super, super duper comfy. It's like probably one of the most comfortable beds I've ever slept on. So yeah, those are some of the things that people ask that I like to be, upfront and honest with about. Sometimes I just do the sponge bathe thing in a Dunkin' Donuts or Walmart or other grocery store bathrooms. And that is certainly something that most people would not be comfortable with doing, but I am. Just because I want to do this so badly, that I just don't let that be the one thing that holds me back from all this other, this life that I get to live, which is so freeing. And it's, for me, it's a design truly into like editing down to what what it is that I really want. And I guess that's the last thing that I can leave with people is to just, put the blinders on, take some time to sit, especially this end of the year. This is a great time to do it. And really ask yourself, like, what do you want in life? Who are you? And don't listen to what your parents or your teachers or your community or your culture says that who you are and what you're supposed to be doing, that you're supposed to be successful by this particular age, that you're supposed to have children in order to be happy, that you're supposed to have marriage, that you have to have a partner in life. You don't have to have a partner in life. And the other thing is, like, don't wait to live your dreams until you have all these things, right? I'd never be in this van if I waited until I had a partner to do it with, or if I waited until I had the financial resources. I just am doing it, and because I know it's what I'm meant to be doing. So, whatever your dreams are, just go after them full force. And you know what? If you fail, like we talked about earlier, if I break down, if I fail, if I end up on the side of the road of life, then it'll be fine.
Yep.
I'll fix it. I'll dust myself off and I'll keep going on down the road. And that's what you'll do too, no matter what. I'm really, really busting through this concept that there's any such thing as failure.
Yep.
There's really no such thing as failure. You just,
learning experiences.
Yes. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, you froze here right at the very end.
Sorry,
there you go.
Sorry.
You're back.
I'm back. Someone called me. I didn't put in.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on here.
Adam.
And for anyone who's watching, you can check out Sally on her website, compassionvan.com. She has a YouTube channel, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Are there any other ones?
That's all.
Okay, great. So yeah, you can check out all those. I have a few links in the description of this video. So thank you so much again, Sally, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And everyone, take care. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you, Adam.
Bye-bye.
Bye.